Welcome to the Nerd Party.
I'm Darren Moser.
I'm Phillip Gilfus.
I'm Daniel Prue.
And this is City Alpha 3.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to City Alpha 3, a Star Trek podcast here on the Nerd Party Network. I am your host, Daniel Prue, and joining me as always are Darren and Phillip. Hey, guys, how are you?
Engage. That's what we say, right? When we're starting.
Every time.
I'm still good. I've been
kind of a thing.
Continuing my TOS rewatch. Though it does confuse me because since I've watched everything, every time I open up All Access, usually the blue bar is like, oh, whatever I haven't watched. I'm like, oh, I watched it all, so I have to remember where I am. But I watched,
where's the reset button?
Exactly. I watched Court Martial, and that was actually pretty good. Interesting. Now, I have for my nerd moment of thing I didn't think about, but I recently read The Making of Star Trek, which I think I talked about last week. But anyway,
yeah, I remember
one thing I'm trying to notice now, and I think it's one of the things I don't think we ever talk about because we TOS. There's a lot of things we don't hold it to the same standard that maybe we do later Trek, but Spock's rank is really inconsistent because he is wearing, and I think earlier in the series he is wearing the Lieutenant Commander stripes, which is the 2 and the little one. Or excuse me, it's all right. No, it's the one big one and the one little one is the Lieutenant Commander. And then, of course, he's usually a Commander, which is the 2 big ones. But in Court Martial, he is wearing the Commander stripes. But if you remember, in Court Martial, and everyone gets a little handprint and the little computer talks, and they do call him Lieutenant Commander Spock. So I think it's a little bit of a Chakotaying with Spock. So,
I was going to say, O'Brien is the Spock of TNG.
Yeah, so it's just a weird thing with because I in the book that I was reading, there's actually a note. I don't know if it was from Gene or from someone else who said to the scriptwriters, "Hey, he's a commander. You can call him Lieutenant Commander." Apparently, they never fixed it in the script, but anyway, so they're aware of it too. But it was just a little interesting thing about TOS.
Did you watch? So we're recording on Easter Sunday. So Phillip, I was wondering if you watched the TOS episod with the bunny in it.
Surely it was a couple episodes ago. So no, yeah.
Darn. Okay.
Yeah, my wife was really had a reaction when McCoy comes out with the 2 Vegas girls. She was like, "Okay, what show are we watching here?" I was like, "Oh, 60s or 50s."
Star Trek. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. What about you, Darren? Anything new going on?
It was a pretty good week. I started a D&D campaign on Tuesday, and that's been going well. We had a good first session with the Roll20.
Actual legitimate D&D campaign.
Yep, yeah. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We totally
got that invite. It was
Evite. Where's our Evite?
Look, I still have flashbacks from when we played, Star Trek RPG. I still have that episode saved in my podcatcher because I just listened to the part about the Cardassian sunrise over and over. It cracks me up every time. Listeners, don't order a Cardassian sunrise during the Cardassian War. It's not a good idea. But oh man, that was some good moments.
So, how was your first time being Dungeon Master?
I've been a DM before. One of my friends actually who was in the game, we would trade off so that way each of us could play. So like he'd run a campaign and then I'd run one. But this is the first time we've done really using Roll20, and the 2 other characters are brand new to the game, but they're really creative, like really enjoy storytelling and stuff. So it's been really good. We're getting into the flow, but I'm really looking forward to it. So I did a lot of research beforehand, just lots of reading, and like read through the whole Dungeon Master guidebook and found some good, just guides on how do you get started and how do you get people kind of introduced into it. And the biggest thing I found, which has been actually working really well, is it was this whole outline on how you focused. You have like the plot, and then you have the adventures, and they're actually separate. And the way they kind of described it was like Lord of the Rings. The plot is Sauron is trying to take over Middle Earth and turn the forces of men against each other. That's the plot. The adventure is, Frodo is teaming up with Merry and Pippin, and they're trying to get carrots out of Farmer Maggot's, crop, and like that has nothing to do with the plot. It's just the adventure the characters are on, but they're both moving along simultaneously, And so it's like your character can't derail the plot because they can interact with it, but it's always still going. So I have like a 12, 13 week plot outlined in my head, and we'll see where we go.
Is there actually a character in Lord of the Rings called Farmer Maggot? Sorry, Farmer Maggot.
Farmer Maggot, that's what they call him.
That's funny.
I mean, he didn't sell really well at the local farmer's market because, branding wasn't good. But let me pull out my... I'm sure I'll find it somewhere in this
it's
massive,
shimmering, Darren.
massive book. It's only what, 3-4 inches thick. I'm sure I can pull it out of this book really fast.
Is that all of it?
Is that in the original?
This
Elvish?
is the Lord of the Rings. Yes, this is a copy I was gifted when I graduated high school, and it's a nice. I like it because it has this like ginormous map that folds out. That's really, really, really big. Ooh. Everyone say ooh so they know what you're
and that's, I know folks can't see this on the podcast, but one thing that's cool about the map, and I don't know if they meant to do it or was just accidentally the way they did it, you could actually fold out that map and read at the same time.
That's true. It is on the last page in a way that you could like keep it open and read. But, it's like the technical manual of a starship, Daniel. It would be really helpful to have while you're trying to learn this story, but...
I will say, Darren, you didn't actually declare mischief managed before you put it away, so I don't think it's a bit of a faux pas.
Oh, I'm recording with you guys. There's no managing this mischief.
Well, aren't you working on the technical manual for the Lost Serena in your spare time, Darren? Is that not?
Yes, it's... No, actually, I thought I'd start with the with Riker's ship first, because then I could just copy-paste it into a million copies and then just make all my Latinum back.
250 chapters, all of the same exact thing.
Exactly.
Well, that's great segue there, Darren, because we are going to be, in fact, talking about Star Trek Picard. We are now 2 weeks out of Season 1 of Star Trek Picard, and we talked a little bit, kind of, about maybe speculation for the future last week. I want to reflect. We've had some time to kind of absorb and digest this season, and I want to kind of go through it and talk about how we feel about Star Trek Picard Season 1 coming right off the heels of it.
How do you feel? How do you feel?
It was the fastest 26 episodes, I thought. I mean, it was amazing how quick that went. It was over in like half the time.
Yeah, amazing, right? And so let's just... it's kind of freeform here, so I don't know where you guys want to start. I would think... try to place yourself. Close your eyes if you have to. Try to think back to the day before the debut of Star Trek Picard Season 1. What are your thoughts? What are you hoping for? And what do you want to see, and how much of that comes to fruition? What then versus now? What would you say? Everything was the worst, disappointing thing of all time? Would you say it's been a mixed bag? Would you say, no, of course it's met every expectation I've ever had? Because you know what, it's interesting with Discovery. You could kind of see, take it for what it's worth, but I feel like the mostly the fan reaction has been mostly negative, and with Picard it feels really, really mixed. Like everywhere I go, I see people defending it, or maybe not loving on it, or somewhere in the middle, and that's fine too. I think that's where we usually land on these sorts of things. So what do you guys think?
Well, and I don't know, Daniel, the numbers, but presumably Discovery isn't totally negative, or I'd say wouldn't have renewed it for 3 seasons.
That just means it makes money.
Well, that's but I because I was thinking about this, Daniel. I was asking myself this. This seems like an extreme position, but I'll take it. Would I have rather the series not be done at all, or rather than what we got? Which seems very like, I'm going to say it's really negative. But I wrestled that for a second. Would this be better if it never existed? Or is this good? Because
was that an eternity in your Android time frame, Phillip?
Because the framing you said, Daniel, about like right before this started. Because in some ways, and this is maybe my expectation, which is just my expectation, is that I saw this series as kind of an epilogue, which is my, and people may have disagreed, and the people who made it may disagree that this is going to be an independent series with an independent story. But I just sort of like, this is a chance to just revisit this character. And so it's kind of just be this kind of epilogue, this kind of, cherry on top, that we get this awesome chance through CBS All Access and through Patrick Stewart wanting to revisit it, just to kind of do and this is how the character ended. This kind of nice one last voyage story, and it doesn't have to be this whole 7-year saga. It's just this is a love letter to the fans, to overuse a phrase. And so when I sat with it, and I'll stop talking here, is that I thought I loved the overall concept. Darren, you're talking about plot versus adventure. I loved the plot structure they made for this series.
Okay. And
I think they had me halfway through, and I think the second half they kind of lost me. But I think I'm at the, would I have not had it rather than have it? And I think at this, if you put a phase to my head, maybe I'd say I'd rather not have it. But if I could choose a middle ground, I'd say lots of potential and maybe not massively disappointing, but just disappointing during the second half. That's where I land.
See, I'd say two things. One, and we kind of joked about this, but it's kind of a 10-part pilot. In a way, the very end is the whole crew together for the first time off on new adventures. They're actually in a much stronger position because they have all the backstory and how they got together and all that. That story's been told for this crew to go on their next adventure. So I think season 2 is actually starting in a really strong place. But that was an interesting perspective you were giving, Daniel, about thinking back to just January when we were ready for Picard, and we just seen a couple trailers, but we weren't really sure what we were going to get. And I feel like from what we saw in the trailer, I feel like we got it. I don't know if I was happy with the quantity of each of the cups. So we knew we were going to get Borg stuff, and we knew we were going to get, Sorty Romulan McKillu, and, and we were going to get some
Sorty Romulan McKillu.
Yeah, some Tal Shiar stuff and lots of Picard and I feel like and some Data stuff. And I feel like we got all of that, but not in the amounts that we were expecting. We've talked a lot, and I know for you, Daniel, specifically, that the Borg in themselves were a huge it's just wasted opportunity. Just they were there, but they really didn't need to be there. It was just this glorified set dressing for many of the shots, and they didn't, not they didn't play a part, but it didn't feel very satisfying. But so I guess that's kind of my answer. I feel like it is a great setup for season 2, in a way that I can't think of many shows that have really felt like that, where literally it's the last shot of the last episode and they're all sitting down ready to go, second star to the right, engage, let's go. And which is cool, but the way we got there was lots of ups and downs.
Two things, Darren. One, in your metaphor, I imagine these cups in front
by
of you.
Metaphor, Phillip, by metaphor.
And they all have, water, Earl Grey, whatever you want in them, and they're all these equal amount of cups.
Okay.
Then
yes.
they take one cup.
There are 4 cups. Okay, I just want to be clear.
And they take away the equal amount Data cup, and instead replace it with a big gulp, and just pour all the other things into that one. So you just have this big gulp Data, and all the other ones are empty now.
And then you realize that Data was actually written on tape, and when you peel it back, it just says synth. Because that's really what it's all about.
And then the second thing, when you said it at the
end,
and
Bruce Maddox gets tossed in there, and Soji gets tossed in there, and everything gets tossed in there.
But we said at the end where they have them all in that sort of nice group shot for the publicity.
It's very Star Trek 6. I mean, it feels a lot like that.
I think I agree with you about the character setup, but then here's the question: when they're they don't literally say this, but well, actually they do. They say engage, right? Where are they going? Literally, figuratively, and literally,
as far away from creepy Romulan boyfriend as we can.
Because it'd be weird if we have a mission, or just something stupid
no, the mission was to bring back synth rights because wait, never mind, that was off screen.
That just
solved.
happened instantly.
We're good. We're fine on that front.
Okay, we've been joking
problem.
about how Discovery ends its seasons with all these cliffhangers, but there's something to be said with something, a tease, whether it's the Enterprise or it's the whatever.
I did see a little fan edit someone made where it was like the end battle and all the Romulans drop out of warp and they're about to shoot down Picard, and then they edited footage to make it look like, the Enterprise E and Voyager and like all the ships we love like showed up, and I'm like, yeah, that could have worked, And then of course, like immediately people were commenting like, oh, so you're going to throw 20-year-old starships against the top of the line Romulan fleet? Whatever. You can't please everybody, but
I sorry, brief interruption. I did play Star Trek Online. It was the planets aligned, and I played Star Trek Online the other day. And I played a mission, without going into long story short, I played this mission where it's this TOS setting. I don't know if y'all remember, like, it's not really a great episode of TOS where it's like Abraham Lincoln and it's good versus evil and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. But anyway, you're playing on that planet.
Abraham Lincoln's face, got it. Okay, yeah.
And you're playing on that planet with good versus evil, except they bring back, like, Michael Burnham is with you, Seven of Nine is with you from, like, Picard. And then at the end, when you have this big battle, exactly what you said happens in Star Trek Online. You have all the Enterprises show up. You have Voyager. And they use, it kind of reminds me of Day of the Doctor 50th anniversary. They use like sound clips. So while you're fighting the battle.
Oh, I did see that. I saw that clip. Someone posted it, but it was like, history will never forget the name Enterprise. And, let's see what, like, you could tell they hand-picked lines from like Voyager and Enterprise and all of that, and they all show up. I did see that. Yeah, it was very 50th anniversary, like, But what were your thoughts, Daniel? I'm curious.
Well, I was gonna pick up with what Phillip was saying about, was it worth doing the show at all? And I talked about this before, and I said, when like the Ghostbusters reboot comes out or something else,
2025, got it, yeah.
Or whatever, a remake of whatever comes out and it flops or it does great or whatever. People are like, you ruined my childhood, and I'm like, no, I don't understand that mentality.
That doesn't make any sense.
So TNG will always exist as a thing, like even
in glorious HD Niners, take it. Sorry.
Even if Picard is the best or the worst thing in the universe, Picard is like you were kind of going with there, Phillip. Picard is its own thing. So I say yes, go for it. Because even if there's only a little good that comes out of it, if there's only like some small positives, then
so it's almost like you're saying choose to live, Daniel.
But that's a good point. So I wanted to start on a positive note. And then we can move into more of our disappointments. But I wanted to talk about what aspects of the show that we really liked, that we thought that we enjoyed. Maybe particular characters that we loved, or lines, or even story. Maybe references to the past. Maybe when Riker and Troy show up. What did you guys? What was like your sort of favorite stuff?
I enjoy.
Well, can I start?
Go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
So I would say, and I feel universally. God, I gotta look up their names.
Romulan Mom and Dad.
Yeah, Romulan Mom and Dad. Momulan. Everyone love those two characters, and it's so interesting how we don't really know a lot about them relatively. Like, their backstory isn't shoved all over us, but they're acted so well, and because it's their connection to a character we love, Picard, I mean, honestly, like, I mean, I'm glad that they didn't go on the mission, because I think that would have been like a little too much, but what we got of them was great, and they were, very great. I hope they show up again in season 2. I think they were a great addition to this series that really added to Picard, because I think a lot of Picard is who he surrounds himself with, be it the crew of the Enterprise or old friends or, people that he cares about. We learn more, I think, about his state in all of those moments at the chateau, where he'd come from over the last 20 years, just through those characters.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Sorry, not to make anytime I'm on my other podcast, I make reference to the other podcast subject matter. But it just reminds me of Doctor Who, where, and for those who aren't conversant, I'll just make the quick metaphor here. When the 11th Doctor loses his companions, mostly Amy, There's the snowman. It's the Christmas special. But anyway, he goes to the Paternos gang, this group of other companions. But they're sort of taking care of him during this mournful moment. And then he meets Clara and blah, 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 blah. But it kind of reminds me of, like, this is those caretakers. They're sort of have been taking care of Picard, literally and figuratively, during this decades of self-exile. But it does make me think, and this is not a criticism. I know we often come across as negative. This is just a, potential thing. Like, she's very protective of him, doesn't want him to go. But I do wonder what they think of him, because obviously they regard him highly because of what what he attempted to do or what he did do for the Romulans. But I do wonder deeper than that. What do they think of what he owes, or is he just deserved? In their eyes, he just deserves retirement. But I mean, certainly he's having a self struggle that they could see, or maybe they don't see, that he still is the self exile is not doing him personally any good.
Yeah, I just wish we got some sort of closure, or it's like one scene with them at the end there. It just, I know we were in a rush to get towards the end, but because we saw them in the first 3 or 4 episodes, and then that was it. Like they played their part, so just something interesting. But okay, I totally agree with you, Darren. That was a great one. What about you, Philip? You got anything?
Well, I mean, I hate to pick the obvious ones, but I'll pick the obvious. Well, no, I was going to say Riker Troy, but let me pick a more broader thing. And I know this is going to seem
the whole episode.
Well, it was mostly, but the moments where they being the writers, the showrunners, and even the actors, were not afraid to sit down and talk. And I know that's me. I get it. But I don't, I like a good dialogue scene. It doesn't have to be... Anyway, all that to say that's a positive part. So whether it's, Picard and Data, whether it's Picard and Soji, whether it's Riker, Picard, these moments of where, let these characters sit and explore some issues. Obviously it's not the whole episode, because it's not a stage play. Embracing a little bit of theater is not a bad thing. And so I did like that they did take those moments in what is a modern show, obviously. That is an action drama, obviously. I liked when they took those moments of, sitting around the table, whether it was the mess hall table or the Riker Troy table or whatever, or even like a Picard,
high school cafeteria table,
or even Picard Rios. Picard talking about, I remember being a young ensign and being the first on watch on the Reliant. All just these small moments are very good.
Even him talking to his old doctor. I mean, that was a great little scene. This new character we have never heard of, but we don't need to.
Mm-hmm. So I did enjoy. I think they could have done it more, but that they did it all, I will be appreciative of.
I would say one of the highlights for me is I'd say roughly 50% of the new characters. But I'm going to highlight Rios specifically. I think he's a very dimensional character. Yeah, we learned a lot about him. He was really interesting. He was very charming. Plus the whole hologram aspect is awesome.
That was very clever. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So,
it could have been done very cheesily, but it worked, the way they did it.
Yeah. So really, Rios was the standout to me, but I mean, even Rafi to a lesser extent. We already talked about the Romulan parents. Some of the characters really, really gelled for me, and maybe others didn't so much, but there were... And like I said, I was worried. I was worried at the beginning. We talked about it beforehand. I'm worried about being I don't care about any of these characters. Who cares? These aren't the characters I know and love. But I think for the most part, they did a pretty good job of making you care, and they made some really interesting characters.
Yeah, no, I agree. And because I think, as we've talked about before, a perspective for this show was to be civilian oriented. And
that's true.
Even though a lot of them are former Starfleet, they're all shown to us as civilians and in their civilian capacity. So, I mean, it was interesting to sort of have that offered.
I would add to that good list, and I know he's not a new character, but Hugh. I mean, everything with Hugh, I think, was really well done. Would really like to have seen him off continuing some mission, doing something, and not dying, but what we did get that moment when he and Picard meet is one of the best moments of the whole season, and they did a lot with that. For as much as I bemoan, I wish they'd done more with the Borg. What they do with the Borg, especially when it's through the lens of Seven and Picard and their emotional kind of baggage and history with that, it's really subtle, but it's really well written. So, I mean, maybe if that's all we get from placing a defective Borg cube in the mix of this entire plot, if all we really got out of it were those moments, it's worth it. I mean, those were good moments.
Yeah, it made me wonder if the writers had a analogy for who the XBs are supposed to be in real life. Is this and it doesn't have to be like, and I'm going to make something up, I don't know, like, oh, this is supposed to be the story about refugees and how they're treated, or and I'm not saying, but like, I would be wondering what their that if there was like a motivation, because is there a story there to tell? And again, you don't have to be like, this is what we're trying to do with this metaphor. You don't have to do that. I'm not saying you have to do it, but it's interesting if
by metaphor.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of like, this is we all had a lot of fun this episode, but I hope this is a lesson we learned. You don't. But interesting if what they were trying to go for with that, if anything at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else that you guys wanted to praise about the show, or?
Well, I mean, I liked the data of it all, and you can say it was too much, and I would say maybe it was too much, but I mean whatever, it was fine. I mean that exploring this TNG story thread of Data, of his death, of the aftermath of that. You're going to do an after TNG show based on Picard and the TNG concept. Make your list of what you want to do. And so, despite it maybe being too much of it, but not in a bad way, just like, oh, you're devoting a lot of time that you could be doing for other things, I thought they landed that ship, in my opinion, of saying goodbye to Data.
The flower guided it down.
Yeah.
And it was... Yeah, no, I agree. Like, the epilogue to Nemesis, really, is what it was. And I still love that end shot of Data just aging and passing. It was really beautiful, actually. Like, he looked so much more natural aged than any of the de-aging effects and makeup that they tried to do on Brent. It just looked like this is what Data should look like. He should age. He should grow old. He should, have that part of the human story. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Philip. Like, and I feel it was kind of on the edge. Like, I don't personally feel that they went overboard. They had lots of connections to Data, but I'm glad they used Brent sparingly in that role. He had other times when he was just soon, but yeah, no, I liked, that connection to synths, because I mean that's the connection we're going to resonate with. I mean, it would be weird to have the synth story and not have Data involved, if you think about it.
All right, so let's move on and talk about things that we felt maybe weren't done so well, some disappointments that we had. And boy, you mentioned the Borg thing, and that's a big one for me. Really, I guess most of what I take issue with can be boiled down to that there's a lot of elements that were given no depth at all. The Borg and the Romulans really even are one of those things where, like, even though they were pervasive throughout the series and like synths, it's like take synths, which is the whole point of the whole show. It just it felt like one episode of classic Star Trek would have dealt deeper with that issue than the entire series that we got about synths. And it felt like... So, like, if we had one episode of synths and then, like, one episode of, like, refugee, like, the past of Romulans, and then, like, one episode of, like, the XBs. Sure, yeah. Just to be able to go deep. Absolutely. Instead of cutting back and forth, and now we're on the cube, and now we're back here, and now we're over here. Well, no, and it's fine. Like, it's fine if you have to sacrifice one at the expense of the other. But the fact is that they never did. Nothing ever felt like it went very deep on the show. And I think that was my biggest frustration. Even the main point of the show, which I would argue would be the synths. We never learn anything about the synths. We don't even meet them until the second to last episode. And then they just are bad because they're bad. And then we never learn. And then all of a sudden the whole situation's resolved. Everything's fixed, and now the synth ban is lifted. And first of all, we never understood them. Like, they tried to hide and obfuscate these things throughout the series, and then we never learned enough about them as a people, as a species, to, like, care, or I don't know. So it's take it with the synths, take it with the Borg, take it with the Romulans. All that sort of stuff is just, it's used as backdrop, as props. And never, ever, like, given, like, proper dissection as a subject matter, like something like Star Trek normally handles, is what I would say.
That's a good point. It makes me think, like, if there was one thing that they could have done, maybe not have the synth ban be lifted. Maybe not have, like, the way open for Soji and Picard to go back and, do whatever. Like, I mean, that's old Trek is what they did, is end of the episode, end of the season, everything's good, everything's back to normal, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in itself, but I mean, imagine if it was more like, oh, are we going to deal with that next season? Nope. I mean, they chose not to, and maybe they have another, main story that they want to tell in season 2, and that's fine. But, that I feel like Battlestar Galactica or like more modern storytelling where things aren't fixed that easily, or they never go back to being fixed. I think it would have been an interesting thing to develop and to show of the synths being how do you come back from that, from like a whatever it was, like what, a 10-year ban or something like that, to just be sorry, I didn't mean to snap you out of existence like Q. No.
Well, I don't know how much behind the scenes matters, because I try to often ignore it, but I'm going to say his name wrong. Michael Chabon, is that how you say? I don't even know that's how you say his name. But anyway, the ostensible, and you all correct me if I'm wrong, there's the ostensible showrunner for Picard Season 1, and I'm a little confused. I've heard conflicting stories, but like, he's not the showrunner for Season 2. He may still be around, but in other words, did they do this sort of everything solved because I don't know they knew who's coming in, but we want them to have a free hand, I guess, or I don't know if that's a theory or a reason why, instead of, and it's also whatever, you can't help these things if they happen, but to now have someone else at the helm, how does that change the tone or but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But as far as the synths, and I'm gonna, you don't have to show everything I'm about to say, but just create an interesting story about it. Like, what does the synth ban mean? Like, in other words, we got Children of Mars. Okay, so you exploded all the robot Mars workers. But, like, what does that actually mean to the Federation? Like, what are synths? Like, how are they used? What's right. Show me an example other than, because, again, if you haven't read the novel, you don't know that they needed the synths to make the Romulan fleet in order to make, da-da-da-da. But, it's sort of like holograms with the Doctor and Voyager. Like, what are holograms used for in the Federation? It's like, what are synths used? What did it even mean to be a synth man? What effects? So it would have some sort of story about, either a broken down synth or a former synth or other than just a magical android planet. What are synths? We actually never saw any synths, just magical assumed androids.
Yeah, and, just as an aside, I really liked the data type synths that they had on Mars. I wish we got to learn more about them, but again, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they were obviously designed like to interact with people, but not be so much like people that people would get weird about it. But
they didn't feel like sentient like Data. Like they didn't. They're like right on the edge.
And that's the thing, we don't know enough about them. So it's so weird that they are the representation of synths that we understand beforehand, and then the representation of synths that we get at the end of the series or throughout the whole series really are just people. There's literally no identifiable difference between humans and synths throughout most of Picard. So it honestly feels like we're not dealing with synths. It feels like we're just dealing with a different group of people.
Because there is no difference, Daniel. We're all
I get
the same.
It. So what about you guys? Anything else?
Well, also, and again, I'm trying to think. You have 10 episodes. You have the existing stories. What am I taking away? Honestly, it's the 7 episode, but people may disagree. But I'm trying to think. How do you add this in? But like the arm wave, and this is my complaint. The arm wave of like, oh yeah, the Tal Shiar, or the whatever they're called, the secret Tal Shiar. Whatever.
The Tal Shiar, I mean...
We're never going to say it again.
Yeah.
The secret Tal Shiar, like, oh yeah, we did the synth attack on Mars. How? With who? What? Like, I mean, I'm not saying you have to show... Well, maybe you do. It would have been interesting. When did it happen? I mean, just like, now we did that. It's like magic wand.
Even if the Zhat Vash, their ultimate goal is to get the synths banned, they're still Romulans. Why would they destroy the fleet that was coming to save their planet? I don't none of that situation makes sense.
And that's maybe an interesting story there, Dan, because show something where they have to balance the threat of our species or a large part of our species being killed or being extinct because of this supernova versus this existential threat that we think of synth. And that's an interesting story to play with for an episode or two. Maybe have you make Commodore O more interesting or Narissa more interesting by them having to balance, because we got this sort of, Narissa seemed a little more hesitant in that flashback when she was around the magical circle, instead of the cold-blooded mustache twirler that we got for the most of the series. And so to have to balance that, how do I make that decision? Is there any regret about making that decision? And then you can have different ones. Commodore O, yes, black and white. I don't care. I'll sacrifice every Romulan to destroy the synthetics. Or you have Narissa, who's maybe maybe
in
that
the
was
fleet that we don't know how you got,
Yeah.
and where it came from. I think at the end of the day, I don't know if it's I'm not saying it's trying to do too much. I'm just saying you could have told this story with half the number of characters, half the location, and half of the zipping around, and gone deeper into all those things we actually got.
Because
because you have Elnor, who just got dropped. It's tons of buildup, tons of backstory with Picard in this monastery or whatever. And not a really lot happened there. And not that every character needs to become the end all be all, but it was just, that's, I feel, one example where
he just felt completely off the grid. I feel even the writers were just oh God.
He was from the throw stuff at the dartboard and see what sticks at the beginning phase, but he never came off the dartboard and he stayed in the show.
Yeah. I don't know.
The dartboard of also let's have him on the board cube. Okay, why? We'll figure that out later. Let's just do it.
And because I don't not like Elnor, but when you're talking about 10 episodes, what can I sacrifice to tell other stories? Okay, if I take him away and I take that episode away, I got a free episode now to do more. But
exactly
as the ability, and I think Elnor has a potential. I'm going to keep saying that word. Has the potential to be interesting, and he did have cute moments. But as far as just the naked role that he plays, once Seven enters the picture, you already have your kick-ass action person,
defender, safe. Yeah, they even team them up, and it's literally the same person. Yeah.
Romulan ninja sword was in somebody's boggle that they put in for Star Trek, and that's what they got. So, and I agree with you. It's I have no dislike of the character or the actor of Elnor. He could be interesting, although you give him one catchphrase and make him say it every episode, he's going to get annoying a little bit. But you could do something interesting with him. But it's nothing. It's a nothing burger. Nothing.
Or again, Maddox.
That was a nothing
really
burger.
Interesting. I mean, interesting character that we really barely saw. And I mean, imagine the debates Picard, Soon, and Maddox could have at the synth planet at the end as they're trying to figure out who is right. And maybe that's the moment where they're all debating and the synths are all what the heck, you three humans are trying to decide our fate. Why do we not even have a seat at this table?
I was going to say Maddox only died because we would know where the synth planet was beforehand, and then we would skip half the season, and that's the only reason he died. I don't know. Maybe they should have just pushed it back or whatever. But that's
I think he should have just stayed at the planet, been at the planet the whole time. There's no reason for him not to be at the planet.
Well, I was just thinking if I'm as I'm doing this ugly, who can I get rid of in order to make room for other people? If you get rid of Soon. And at the end of the 7 episode, you just have Maddox get away somehow. He just scarpers. And so he's gone for the rest of the series. And then when they find the planet, he's there. And so he basically plays the role, quote unquote, that Soon plays for that story. But you get Maddox and you tie it together. And I don't know. I mean, because does I'm forgetting her name. Agnes. Does Agnes killing Maddox really... I mean, I'm asking this honestly. Does it add anything to her character? Do you need her to kill Maddox in order for her to be interesting for 5 episodes? Or could you take
just confusing.
Yeah, or if you could take that away and he just escapes, Like maybe he sees Picard or Agnes as a threat, or he just panics and he just disappears, and we don't see him again till the end. I mean, that was.
Or here you go. Here's an easy fix. Seven takes Maddox for whatever reason that she has. Mm-hmm. They go off. They leave that planet together for whatever reason, and she's at the end. She's now at the synth planet at the end, and you don't have to deal with all that stuff either. Like, it's messy before you even get there. So, to answer your question, and I'm glad you brought this up, Philip, because Agnes specifically is a real frustration because it feels like they drag her character through this terrible ordeal for no reason, and then want us to forget it at the end of it, and I found that terribly frustrating.
Sir, we just got it through. The synth ban has been lifted, and Agnes has a pardon. All right. Well, we're all set here.
They won't even
engage.
Say that. Yeah, they won't even say that. Yeah.
I'm glad it says it on this pad that I totally didn't write. It's just like, yeah. I mean, again, my overall enjoyment was really good. I enjoyed the series, and it was a lot of setup for getting our crew together. And I'm interested in what they do in season 2 with these characters that we've spent 10 episodes learning about. And that's great. Like, it's literally a 10 episode pilot. But I'm actually more curious now what story they're going to tell with this particular crew. Is it going to be another galaxy saver, or is it going to be?
It better not be.
That's one thing I was thinking about.
I don't know.
Too earlier.
It better not be.
Again, this is mine, not
actually. Sorry, not the galaxy, just the Alpha Quadrant. It's the only quadrant we care about.
Beta is interesting at times.
All we do is deep space missions in Beta, and everybody knows it.
But I was just thinking today when I was talking about, should we even have the series? Because again, I think of this, and maybe it's not, and I need to get over it, as an epilogue series to Picard, in which case it can be smaller. And I don't know if they think about this in terms of contrast, because if you look at Discovery obviously is, galaxy, universal threats, galactic threats, the Klingons, it's the Mirror Universe, it's the Section 31, it's Control, it's time, it's self, it's all big issues. So I felt like maybe Picard could be a contrasting series where you can make smaller stories. But
didn't you say earlier, like, what if the whole thing had taken place on Earth during the like him and his winery?
Well, I think that was Dan. You're talking about the.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, even just it could still be the same. But it doesn't have to be like, oh, the synth gods are coming. It could just be something a little bit where it's just the synth planet. Or just it doesn't have to be like. Yeah,
I'm 100% with you, Philip. Like, erase all that stuff. In fact, why not set the series immediately after the synth, quote unquote, synth attack?
That seems like a much more interesting time.
Yeah, and then have us go through the frustration that Picard deals with, like actually going through, the bureaucracy
and him
being
kicked out of Starfleet. I mean, imagine if that was like episode 8 of 10.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, oh my god, the synth, Cthulhu is coming into the universe.
So true.
It's way more important. It's like now we're talking about Federation principles. This is something Picard would, he would die on this hill, and he would absolutely be right, and it would be interesting and fun and so much more relaxed. Like, you could even have him go to the synth planet at the end. Like, maybe he discovers whatever, and then he goes to have those arguments in person. And like, yes, there are way better ways to do this.
And again, I don't have a problem with the pilot, or I don't want to say pilot, first episode as a whole, a remembrance. But think of like
10 episodes at all.
Think of the bait and switch in a good way, where like at the end of the first episode, he's kicked out of Starfleet. And you're like, what? This isn't a Starfleet show? Like, you just we're seeing all of the scenes with him in uniform and the ship.
Like that was a great moment with Ralphie where he's like, that was the play.
Yeah, and then it's
the long game play. It didn't work.
And then you're just shocked at the rest of the series of civilian Picard. And you're like, okay.
Now I'm just imagining a montage where he's just like back at his winery. He's just like, well, making some grapes, and dang, this is not what I expected.
That would be great. Like if that Rafi scene that we have, that flashback that we have with Picard, was actually the last scene of the first.
Honestly,
episode.
The flashbacks were part of the most interesting parts.
I did like them, but I mean, mostly because it is, as a viewer, you were getting to what happened in the past 20 years, and you would get 5 minutes of, this is what happened in the past 20 years.
All right. Anything else?
One thing I was
speaking
of flashbacks, and I'd pose this question elsewhere, and this is just a fun thing, but like, so in the flashbacks, and I don't know how to label these things, but I'll just say flashback. In the flashbacks, we get the flashback Starfleet uniforms, which I know this is an audio medium, but they sort of have that mid stripe on the top.
Right. It's like we added more and then added like a black stripe in it. Yeah.
And that looks really cool. I mean, and
they did. They actually look pretty
and I don't
decent.
know if
they still had the Voyager comm badge.
Yeah,
I think.
And I don't know if we're assuming that came right after DS9, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, so you have that uniform. Now in the Picard, the present day of the series, they have sort of gone to simplified it. So like, you know what? We were doing too much, guys. Let's just go to regular color black. Call it a day. You know, I mean, I like that. Don't get me wrong. I love Riker's captain uniform, but it's just interesting to go from this like, let's do something a little different, and then like, no, let's just back to where we were.
That's Starfleet design. It ebbs and it flows, right? I mean, we started with what? Colored t-shirts. So.
True.
It's fine. Uniform. I mean, honestly, if we're actually going to be talking about another pro, like the production design of the show, the music, the visuals, all really like top-notch television stuff. Like, really
how do you like going to
stuff.
I don't know if holographic's the right word, but to a holographic ship design? You know what I'm trying to say? Interface.
Yeah, the control panels and stuff. Yeah. I like it. And somebody posted a clip the other day of, I think maybe it was Harry Kim from the Frozen episode, and he goes, "Man, I haven't used a non-holographic control interface in 15 years," or whatever it was. And it was nice. I was like, "Hey, that's a little good call out there." Yeah, so that was fine.
It was Bashir.
Oh, in the Cisco episode
from Voyager.
I think there's another. Yeah,
that's right.
They also say that I haven't worked a non-holographic because it's funny because it's Bashir. So Sadig is like super young, like the youngest in the cast, and he's trying to play this old man. So it's just very much like a young person playing an old man. It's like I haven't worked a non-holographic data system in 35 years. Yeah. We might. I don't think we got anything in All Good Things, but yeah, You're probably right with Harry, but I think we also got it with is that the Visitor?
Yes.
So okay, here's the thing. I don't want to speculate too much, because we did a lot of that last week with Philip's topic. But I do want to talk about, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Philip. Like, where are we going? Like, do you think they'll pick up any of these threads? Do you think it'll be a whole new villain of the season, kind of a la Discovery?
Are we saying, do we think the Romulan is dead? That was kicked over the balcony. We didn't see a body. Just saying.
Well, there's a huge fleet out there. There's still Commodore O.
Is Khan still around? I mean, I don't even know at this point. Yeah, no, I that's where, like I said, I don't know what the plot's going to be in season 2. I mean, it's obviously going to fit with what this crew is because they're not a Starfleet crew. They're not.
Are they still paying Rios?
Apparently, Picard's loaded, or Agnes. Everyone's loaded. Someone's loaded. Agnes is independently wealthy. Maybe she owns a moon. They could go visit. I don't know.
Is she Ferengi?
Her cousin.
Oh yeah, sorry, cousin.
Seven probably has a lot of bounties or something.
Seven has 25 years of backpack.
There you go.
So it's like a Captain America situation.
What is it like in Insurrection where Picard's like, I have 855 days of shore leave accrued and I plan to use them.
So, you just quickly asked Darren who we want to see cameo next season. I want to see a Deep Space Nine player play a major character, a major role. You know what? Here, you could split the difference. Bring O'Brien back.
Oh,
that would
man.
be fun.
That'd be cool.
But I've heard rumors. I think there was an article that came out maybe a week or so ago that LeVar was talking about being in season 2. So we already know we're getting Whoopi.
That's true, Whoopi. I think Whoopi's there.
I think we need to see Quark. Oh, man, I would love to see Quark.
Quark would be great.
Well, I think a guy named Quarkoff at the bar would be great.
Oh, man. That'd be good.
Bartender versus bartender. Yeah. I mean, presumably we'll also see Worf at some, and hopefully Beverly as well.
Can they just be staring each other down and we start hearing dueling banjos in the background or something?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it'll be interesting whether I don't know who's in charge of this, whether they bring back some of the Star Trek directors, and by that I mean the actors, So, like, B'Elanna, what's her name?
Rosario.
I was about to say Rosario. I was like,
Roseanne.
I was about to say the same thing.
What is her name? Oh,
Biggs Dawson. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, because
Yeah.
she's a director, and then you have Robert, Robbie McNeil, director. LeVar Burton directs, and so it'd be interesting to bring them back, and then maybe like, hey, if you guys are coming back, you want to do a little cameo while you're directing the episode, So
Let's hope Frakes pushed them in that
Yeah.
direction. Be like, hey, here's some of my buddies. That would be nice. I don't know. I have no idea. If I was a writer for season 2, I would be blank slate. I have no idea where.
And
the
I
heck
wonder how it works because
going.
I assume Patrick is involved. So, like, what's keeping him interested? What else is there for Picard to do now?
It's true.
Follow up to Captain's
but it's
Holiday.
true. Like, that's a good question. If whatever the story that he was given was enough to entice him back for season 1, what is it that's keeping him there for season 2?
I wonder, what do you think it was that was interesting to him for season
I mean,
1?
it's getting to deal with the Picard that's, not fallen on hard times, quote unquote, but like he's made mistakes. He's owning up to his mistakes, and he's, I mean, what do you say, Philip? It always comes back to like age and dying and
life and
like.
dying. Well, I mean, like, so they would say, it's civilian Picard. Then they lied to him. You'll never be in uniform. That was a lie.
He's like, well, it's only flashback, so I guess.
Except 3 times.
Three
times will be in uniform.
Like 3 different uniforms. Okay. But anyway. So, civilian Picard, who, is basically exaggerating. Lost everything.
Because I could see him saying no, like, I'm back on the bridge of a ship. Like, it's there's nothing different.
Yeah. So, But now you're. Yeah.
But I don't know. At 80 years old, come on, man. That's a job. You got lots of money for that? No,
Well,
I'm
he's
just
executive
kidding. I'm just
producer. And trust me, it's yeah.
kidding. Yep.
Series has your character's name in it, so I don't think he's getting paid base. So
So you know what? It'll be interesting. Obviously, we'll be here for season 2 of Star Trek Picard. I hope. I will like you mentioned, Darren. An interesting way to end it, kind of setting us maybe a springboard for what's going to come forward. Phillip used the word.
I mean,
potential
bringing
a
Seven
lot.
on board, that was kind of out of left field. Like, that she's now pretty much part of the crew.
is she? Or will in
Yeah.
in the season 2 episode they'll be like, yeah, found 7. We dropped her off on Axanar 5.
Axanar
Hey,
5. Oh, God.
Give us your 7 of 9 button that we can use to press whenever we need
That's
you
right.
for an episode, and then
Give me
7
your
signal?
intergalactic business card.
Yes. Well, and I'm interested. When does Discovery come out? And also we have the animated Lower Decks. But I mean, obviously, being in this current state of the world, everything's on hold. So I'm wondering, will there be any Star Trek this year?
I don't know.
good question.
A year without Star Trek, what will we do?
Oh no! Well, I think we'll run out of things to talk
Probably.
about.
Reboot back to Next Gen show. Activate.
All right, Philip. Well, if people wanted to get a hold of you and find out why is number one,
The
How do you
best
hold
captain in the universe. Where'd you hear that? You can.
I thought you were talking about the dog.
Yeah, I mean, well, also, I mean, wouldn't it be weird or cool if they had a, if things stay the way they are, for the foreseeable, whatever, if they do a short trek, but like a Zoom,
Just
like,
the dog's point of view or something.
but like a Zoom short trek, because they're like, oh, we don't want to have zero trek for the rest of the count. I mean, it'd be interesting. Like, you're given that project, that might be a future topic. If you could do a short trek, but it had to be in this current state of the world, what would you do? But anyway, I was just
How
saying,
would you do it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I was also interested because I assume they'll set up season 2 like they did season 1, Children of Mars, with some short trek of like.
Oh, that's true.
Anyway, but all that said, you can find me on Twitter at @NCPublicServant. Send me your Zoom idea for a short trek.
And Darren, if people wanted to know, are you really a synth? How would they get a hold of you?
Well, if they observe the pattern of my blinking, I think they'll know the answer to that. They can find me on Twitter, Twitch, or Instagram under username Dr. Sci-Fi, DRSCIFI. And I totally think that number 1, the dog, is Q.
Well, people can find me on Twitter as well. I'm there at OneUpDan. The number 1, not the word, as in I also think number 1 is
What
cute.
if number 1 was actually called Livingston? I'm just saying. He doesn't like fish anymore.
He does seem more of a dog person.
I'm Daniel Prue,
I'm Philip Gilfus.
I'm Darren Moser.
stranded here on SETI Alpha 3.
Come!